Maybe. There we go. Hello, hello. Welcome back to This Not That. We took a little break for the holidays and we are back. We are your quick stop for marketing information insights. And today we are talking about trends and what we are seeing in 2023 and some best practices. So, first, let me welcome my co host, Anke Herrmann from Taming the Tech Monster. Good morning, Anke. I mean, good
Good
day. I
morning,
never
Marina.
remember what time it is there.
It's 5 p.m., so it's good
Good
afternoon and
evening.
lovely to be back.
I'm just going to say good day. That covers all the
Yeah,
bases. Good
exactly,
day.
exactly,
I'll pretend I'm
exactly.
Australian.
You
So
have to work on your accent
I
though.
really, oh, a lot. I have to work on it a lot. Let's not mince words there. Um, so that's all right though. I never proclaimed to be Australian. Just thought I'd use their good day.
Yep.
So we have been away for a little bit. We have missed you guys, but we needed to take some time to recharge and just plug into our personal and also business lives. So we have both been doing different things, and I was lucky enough to go to a conference last week to kind of get some information about up and coming and what's working for small business owners and that sort of stuff. Not that I'll share all of that with you today, but that's going to be some of the stuff that we'll pull from. But let's just dive right in. Anka, we've been in this together. Um, our time combined together, we've probably been in the marketing realm for
Oh,
40 years, 30 years, 40 years. I mean, like combined time, it's a lot of time together. I know I've been doing this for 20 years. I think you're right around that time or pretty close to it.
yeah,
Um, and we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Wouldn't you agree?
absolutely. Yeah,
And so we not that we're psychic, but we've pretty got a handle on what to expect and um, keeping up with what's working and what's not working. So one of the big questions that came up, and we haven't really talked about this, but that came up during this conference was the implementation of artificial intelligence in marketing. And so I'm curious from your end, like, what are you seeing? How do you see that working its way into things? And what are some things that we could probably talk about that people could either avoid or embrace when it comes to artificial intelligence?
Hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting one because it feels like the new year started and everybody's been flooded with, like, it seems to be, that hasn't just popped out of nowhere yesterday.
Hmm.
The stuff has been coming, but it's really, I think it's been coming to way more people's awareness in this, like, almost like a wave. So there's this, I've seen a bit of a panic stage in the copywriting world. Everybody, oh my god, are we going to be out of a job, right? And I'm like, you know what? This whole thing reminds me of the early 90s
To say
when I,
Y2K?
well, way before that, when I graduated as a translator and automated translation just started to become a thing, and everybody, oh my god, we've studied all these years to become a translator. Will we be out of a job now?
Yeah.
And well, first of all, there is plenty of entertaining content on the front of comparing artificial or machine translation is still a long way off replacing human translators. So basically it's a tool, and I've seen it, like, even with ChatGPT. It's a tool. It's useful. It can take a lot of the time consuming work out of it, so we get more time to concentrate on really truly creative work. I think it's stupid to try and resist it because it's already here. So it's not like, oh, I don't want to know. That's stupid. But I think to get scared by it or feel overwhelmed by it. It's just any other tool. You can, it's like a knife. You can use it to cut a loaf of bread, or you can stab someone, right? So I think it's here to stay. There, I don't think there's any, But I think it becomes now a matter of who gets creative using it.
Yeah.
You know.
And so my thoughts on are very similar. It's here to stay. And, copywriting is a big chunk of what I help people with. But what it comes down to is at the end of the day, people aren't doing a business with robots. They're doing business with people. And so you will never have, from an AI standpoint, the emotional connection and the personality that you can weave into your own copy by writing it yourself. And so I would say to those copywriters out there that are a little freaked out, I'm like, you still have plenty of breadth that you can put into your copy for yourself and for your clients that AI will never be able to replicate because it's a robot. It's basically a robot. And so I think the tools are out there, and they are definitely beneficial. And I know one of the ways that I have used AI in the past, because I've been just kind of experimenting with it to see what will happen. What I have found is that the information it spits out is very similar. Like if you put a question in there, you might get 5 topic ideas, but they're all the same. And so we live in this environment, which is so different from the environment that we grew up in, where you have such instant access to information to the point where it's overwhelming. And I think that AI only will perpetuate that. And so your content, when you're creating content and you're putting things out there, you have to be creative, think outside the box, but you also have to stand out in a way that is different from everybody else. Because if the AI tools are available to you, they're available to everybody, which means if your content, if you're just going with what AI wrote, you're just going to blend in with the masses. And that's where people really get stuck, is they're like, they want a quick and easy solution to get these things done because they know they need to be doing them. But the content that's going to resonate and the content that's going to stand out is not going to be written by AI, and it's not going to be a quick, replicatable, like everybody does the same thing kind of thing. And so that's my thoughts about that. And yes, you can use it to brainstorm ideas and get insights and all of that sort of stuff. But if you're looking for a quick fix to writing your content on a regular basis and you just want to spit out what AI gives you, you're just going to blend in with everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I totally. That's why I'm thinking, like, yeah, well, it's the latest toy in the toy shop, right? But at the end of the day, it's fascinating when you read old copywriters' ads and stuff, right? And I'm just reading a copywriting, like a book on copywriting, and sort of, written by somebody who's been in the game for a very, very long time, well before the internet and all of that. The principles still apply. Human psychology hasn't changed, and I think it kind of helps to keep that in mind. That yes, there are new toys and new strategies and new whatever every kind of 5 minutes, and it's helpful to keep an eye on what's going on. But I don't think it's this. Like, I think marketing is a lot more rooted in human psychology, and if you focus on those fundamentals, that you need to offer a product or service that solves a problem or gives somebody what they want, and it's your job to explain that value to these people, that doesn't change.
Right.
And if you just stay there, this whole thing is a lot less overwhelming because you don't have to chase every squirrel that runs past you.
Yeah. And I think that you hitting on the emotional intelligence piece of that is really important, because most people forget, like 95% of buying decisions are based on emotion. Mm-hmm. Like you can feed them facts and information and statistics all day long, but if they don't resonate with you, and some of that is subconscious. In fact, a lot of that is subconscious. If they don't subconsciously align with you, they're not going to buy from you. And that's okay, because you will subconsciously align with the people that are meant for you. And so when we talk about competition and like trying to stay away from, stay above our competition or differentiate ourselves from our competition, the reality is there's only one you and there's only one me. And there are people that are looking for both of us. And so when we align with our inner truth and our inner strengths, that's going to shine through, and people will find us for who we are and what we do. So anything else you want to filter in there about artificial intelligence, or do you think we can pull the wrap on that and move on to
Yeah,
something?
well, I think it's a great tool, you know. I mean, and it takes. I mean, that's the thing. It depends on what you make of it. As you said, it doesn't solve all your problems, right? Hell no, it won't. You know, but it might save you from a blank screen syndrome if you suffer from that, and it might give you the odd idea, or it might take out some boring, monotonous task that allows it frees you up to do something more interesting. So yeah, I don't think there's anything to be scared of.
Yeah, I agree. So that brings me into there's 3 topics I wanted to cover today. And the second one is um, what I am seeing as a trend, and you and I have talked about this kind of offline several times, but is the increased requirement of deeper connection. And I personally believe this is a symptom of COVID, and it's been coming, but COVID just amplified it. In that, and the reason I say that is that COVID sort of gave people permission to go ahead and get online and try different things and put their business ideas out there and start a business if they had been thinking about it and all of those things. And yay, go and do that. But the problem is that a lot of those people that have done that wanted an automated system because they've been promised, put it out there, everyone will buy. And then either they're disappointed because it's not working, or they have changed their mind and are going back to do something else now. But one thing that came up in this conference, which was an app, or affirming my thoughts and beliefs, is that people are requiring more connection and one-on-one time with people before buying. And I personally feel that has come from this overstimulation of people putting their offers and information out onto the internet with not a lot of follow through or results or things like that. And so people are kind of burned out by that, hey, group program, or hey, online course, or whatever that is. And they're actually being a lot more picky about who they invest with, but also they want more like you and me time. And so with that in mind, what are your thoughts on like how people can move forward and implementing that without necessarily, giving hours and hours of time a day to new clients?
I agree. I think people have put their foot in. It's almost every single person you speak to. There is always a sense like one of the questions that you can tell people have, even if they might not actually say it. It's this like, how are you going to be different from that other program that I bought that promised all these things and didn't actually deliver? I think there's so much sell the sizzle, not the sausage, that people get so carried away with the sizzle, and then all of a sudden, oh well, yeah, the sausage kind of looked better on the package than it actually tasted. Right?
Yeah.
So I think people are worn out, and everybody has a whole bunch of courses on their, on their computer that they've signed up, or that they've signed up for and never gotten around to it. So I think people get more and more clear on the fact that, well, yeah, we do need that human element, and I still think you can get creative about that, right? About it doesn't have to mean that you now have to sit like 80 hours a week in private one-to-one calls with people, right? I literally yesterday I joined somebody's challenge, right? And when I signed up, there was this I don't know, there's a tool called, I think it's called like Video Ask. And there she was, lovely video, say, hey, what do you think? And then you could go and leave a voice message, and then she actually responded to that.
Yeah.
Right? So it felt incredibly personal, even though she wasn't there, And I remember there's somebody I connected with on LinkedIn, and he sent a message like, hey, lovely to connect. And he sends a photo of himself with a little like notebook that had like, hey, Anke written on it.
Yeah.
So you could see it was a photo but it took a second.
Yeah.
Right. So, and there's Marco Polo app where it's like video conference but asynchronous. So you can You have to get a bit creative for sure,
Yeah.
you know, but I think there's a number of ways that you can create that personal atmosphere and give people that personal support and that connection that they're looking for, and without you spending all your time in one Zoom
Yeah.
call.
Well, and it's really going to help you stand out when you're trying to get in front of somebody and you're trying to get their attention. And I did a massive cleanup of my LinkedIn right before Christmas. And I probably got rid of about 350 connections that were just like, nothing was wrong with them. They just weren't in alignment with where my business is now and where I want to go. And I, frankly, was just lazy and would connect with anyone. And I really wanted to be more strategic about who was in my connections. But I'm telling you what, when you're trying to reach out to people you don't know, or that might be a third or more connection on LinkedIn, trying to get people to accept connections at this point, and even if you are being authentically trying to start a conversation, people have their guard up because there are so many spammers out there. But I think taking that extra minute, using a tool, two of the tools that I know of that you can do this really quickly that are either free or very inexpensive to use are, have you heard of Bonjoro? Bonjoro and Loom are two that you can just go in and you can create like under a 5-minute video for somebody. And it doesn't even have to be 5 minutes. It could be like 2 minutes saying, hey, I'm so glad to meet you. Please reach out, you know, if you want to have a conversation or whatever it is, but just sending that versus a, what am I trying to say? Just a blanket message that you copy and paste is going to work so much better because they feel your authenticity in wanting to create a specific message just for them. And so anyway, just ways that you can think about that, whether it doesn't matter if you're on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, if you really are enjoying somebody's content or you really do want to get in their ecosphere, a great way to do that is just by sending a quick little video. It says, hey, I'm really enjoying your content. I really appreciate it. And don't fake it. Like, really be authentic. Like, one of the things, I'm sure you have this too, because you have a podcast like I do, but you get these blanket pitches from people that it's just so obvious they have never listened to one episode of your podcast. They have no idea what you do. And they're pitching. Like, one of the ones that I get all the time is financial advisors. I'm like, that is so out of alignment with what I talk about on my podcast. I'm like, why would you even bother? It's because they were lazy and they're just blanket pitching. But if you really wanted to be on a podcast and you took the time to go and listen to like 2 episodes or 3 episodes and get a feel for the show and see if it's a good fit, and you sent them a video introduction or a video request, the chances that they're going to respond are significantly higher. And so I 100% agree with what you've said. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Personalizing is not hard, but it does take effort.
Yeah, you have to get a little bit creative. So now that you've got your AI, you know, helping with the content, you've got time to be creative, right?
That's right. That's
you
right.
know, and I think it's also one thing that I get quite a bit. I think in the tech space, you get it a lot when people like, oh, I just want passive income, right? You know, they're kind of looking for a technical solution to get passive income, and I'm always like, well, you know, it's not that it's impossible, but I don't know whether this has ever worked for anybody sort of right out of the gate.
Yeah.
You know, people, I mean, I'm living proof, you know, I still have a website where I sell sewing patterns, you know, and this has been passive, like strictly passive for a long time. But boy, was there a lot of work that went into it before that. So I think
exactly
you cannot skip that step.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think
I think it gets more and more, you know, like, oh, I just put an ebook out. Well, you're kind of 20 years too late for that. You know, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to put some online courses out there. Like, you're several years too late for that, right? So I think these days you have to put a little bit more effort in, and you know, and you're going to have to show up at least initially. You know, you can find ways to be there and be present and get other people to help you deliver. And like, there's a million ways you organize this in a way that it doesn't rob all your time. But this idea of, I just want something out there and then magically have money flowing to me without doing anything. I
Yeah.
think that has never really worked. And I think it just becomes more obvious now that
Yeah.
that's, just
Well,
not
and
the
there's
way it
no quick
goes.
fix. Well, and the one thing that you kind of touched on that maybe this will help clarify it for a few people is when you start to take those action steps and you really start to do those things that are above and beyond that what most people will do, you create momentum. And that's how, like with your sewing patterns, you created momentum because you worked with one person, you did a great job. They told somebody, you worked with the next person, they told
Yeah,
two people, and it creates this momentum that builds the ability to create passive income. But you're not going to just walk
absolutely.
out the door and say, yeah, I create sewing patterns and just put it up on your website and people are going to flock to you. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
Like
no,
it's not magic. And that's
no.
the kicker for me is that people just think there's this magic system of just slap things on the internet and people will buy. But the reality
And
is
I
that
think and it's so easy I think I always say to people, like, the best way to learn about how this works is to observe yourself. Observe yourself scrolling and buying.
yeah,
Just I call it conscious browsing. It's the first thing I tell people to do. It's like, watch yourself when you
yeah,
scroll on Facebook. What do you stop for? Do
yeah,
you ever stop for people who you've never heard
yeah,
about? I mean, I'm to the point now that even if the topic's interesting, if I've not heard your name before, I'm gonna probably
yeah,
scroll straight past, right? So what makes you stop scrolling? What makes you, when you go to a website, what makes you go, ooh, classic example, the pop-ups, right?
yeah,
Every single person, when I send them off to say, well, observe what drives you nuts and what do you really like literally everybody goes, oh, I hate it when you go to a website and the first thing is a pop flying in your face before I've even had a chance to see what this is even about, right?
yeah,
When it comes to put something out there themselves, the first thing they go, can we put a pop-up on there?
yeah,
So it's
exactly.
like when people try and sell something, there's always this, they're looking for a way to shove their shit somebody else down somebody's throat,
Yeah.
right? But then
Well, and
they
if you're
forget that, well,
smart,
when you're there receiving, when you're consuming, that's the stuff you just said you don't like when other people do it.
yeah.
What makes you think that other people will appreciate it just because you're desperate to sell yourself?
Well, and I am gonna probably push back a little on pop-ups because they work. I mean, as much as people
Yeah.
complain, they do work. But I agree. And I think my biggest pet peeve is the people that have pop-ups that are not mobile friendly and then
Mhm.
you can't close them out. Because to me, I'm like, yeah, if I don't want it, I'll just close the X. But if I can't get to the X because it's filling up the entire screen because somebody hasn't done their job to diligently set that up correctly, you're losing people and they're not coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think that, more than that, you're right. Like it's harder and harder to get in front of people that you don't know or that you don't have a direct connection to. And so I think that's one of and I'm not saying ads definitely will work, but you have to be really clear about who you're targeting and staying in front of them. Because what was the statistic they said last week? It was like, it used to be like 8 to 12 times that you had to be in front of somebody. And now it's like 25. You have to actually appear in somebody's line of vision 25 times before they ever even realize, oh, yeah, hey, I think I've seen that before. Like they don't even pay. There's so much noise. People just are lost in the noise. And so I think if you are trying to reach a new audience because you're a newer entrepreneur or you're trying to get in front of, a bigger group of people, you just have to, one, be consistent and be consistent with what you say, like ad nauseum. But two, you can't give up too soon. You have to
I think that is a big one. The not giving up too soon. I think it's almost the biggest hurdle that I see. And
yeah,
I think that's why, I always have this little pet peeve about the 6-step proven successfulness because it kind of plants that seed in people's mind that this should be quick and easy,
yeah,
right? So I'm always saying, well, look, I'm not suggesting that it has to take a long time or it doesn't have to be hard. And if it is not your first rodeo, it might not be.
Yeah.
But you can, if you start out, you cannot. It's just like, yeah, of course you can win the lottery, but you can't trust that you'll, and you can't demand that you'll win it after a week, you
Yeah.
know? So it's that like, well, there's a good chance that it will take longer than you think. And like, it's just flabbergasting how quickly people end up feeling like discouraged, you know? And I got some really funny examples where like literally, like true story, somebody comes and says, oh, that website thing isn't working. And I'm like, website? I didn't even realize you had one. And I was like, when did you publish? And you know, I mean, two things. When did you publish it? And she goes, oh, let me check. Yeah, 3 weeks ago, right? And then two,
Google hasn't even had time to search it yet.
I know. You know, what does work, like it's not working, what does that even mean? It means, well, I haven't gotten a client from it. You know? And so, I mean, variations, that's perhaps a little extreme, but it's a true story. And it's not the only, like, this million variations of the theme, but that idea, I just put something out. And so now, yeah, and again, it comes back to how often we all live in our own world, and our little thing it takes up our entire world. For other people, it's just a drop in the ocean of a million things that they've got going on. Right. So, and I think we just overestimate how important our stuff is to other people. And
Exactly.
people fall into that trap all the time. And when they don't get the response they're hoping for, oh, now I'm discouraged, right? And now I'm going to give up and think somewhere else and try something new and start from scratch. And this way you can keep yourself very busy for a very long time with literally nothing to show for it. So I think you need a bit of, you know, call it grit, or I like to call it stubbornness. Right? You think you need to be a bit stubborn to just put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we are coming to the end. We have one other topic, but I think we'll save it for next week just because we're coming up on about 30 minutes and I want to be respectful to people. So just as a wrap about what we talked about today, one, we kind of dove into AI and how to use that as a tool in your business, but not rely on it to be the one fix for everything solution. And then the second thing that we talked about was, remind me, I'm having a brain fart about what we just wrapped up with.
Well, I mean, what I'm seeing is to not get caught up in shiny objects and, you know, and
right. Just
yeah,
being,
and there is no magic pill.
Oh, I know what it was. Connection.
Mm-hmm.
Just to really focus on connecting, truly authentically connecting with people. And one thing that I see that is so frustrating to me is that you'll have people that their complete intention is to sell to you in direct messages or in your inbox. And they don't know you, they don't know about your business, and they will do the bare minimum to try and get your attention. But again, going back to what we said, you know, maybe 2 or 3 times they comment on your stuff, and then the next thing you know, they're in your direct messages trying to pitch you their product. And so I would say, going back to exactly what you said, like, how would you feel if that were happening to you? And do you really think that's the best practice for you to try and get business? I think we already know the answer to that, but so let's focus on connection and let's use the tools at our disposal to help us work smarter and not harder.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I always appreciate your insights and your experience that you provide to the show. In the meantime, everybody else out there, if you have questions or comments or you have topics that you would like for us to discuss, leave them in the comments and we always read our comments, always try to respond, and we will definitely, take that into advisement when coming up with content for future episodes. So in the meantime, have a great week and we will see you next week. Anke, thanks again for being here and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
I look forward to seeing you too. Bye.
Bye.